The stars shone brightly in the dark void of space as the massive alien ship, the Zetherian, glided silently toward a small blue planet far away from its home. Inside the ship, the Cathari moved gracefully, their tall, slender bodies shimmering under the soft lights of the corridors. They were the galaxy's elite, a species bred for speed, intelligence, and strength. In their eyes, no other life form could compare, especially not the humans on that distant world called Earth Vale. A young Cathari warrior paced in the observation chamber, his long fingers tracing the holographic map of the planet below. His bright eyes sparkled with amusement and disbelief. "Humans?" he asked, his voice carrying a hint of mockery. "Those creatures are weak. They cannot even survive 1 week without their little machines. How can anyone take them seriously?" Another Cathari, older and more cautious, shook his head. "Do not underestimate them," he warned. "We only see them from far away. Their ways might surprise us." Vale laughed, his movement smooth and confident. "Surprise us? They are fragile, slow, and barely intelligent compared to us. I will bet my rank that no human could survive even 3 days walking on their planet without advanced technology." The Council of Cathari, curious about this primitive species, decided to put Vael's claim to the test. A small group of the strongest and fastest Cathari would descend to Earth, equipped with only basic survival gear, enough to stay alive, but not enough to rely on high-tech devices. They were confident. After all, in every galaxy, the Cathari had never been defeated. On Earth, life went on in quiet, ordinary ways. Humans moved through bustling cities, worked in fields, climbed mountains, and explored forests. They laughed, argued, solved problems, and endured storms, heat, and cold. The planet was full of challenges, but humans met them every day with determination and cooperation. They did not need perfect bodies or extraordinary abilities. They had something different. They had endurance, creativity, and an ability to adapt to anything thrown at them. When the Cathari finally arrived, the first thing they noticed was the sheer unpredictability of Earth. Vael landed in a desert, expecting to dominate the sand and sun, but within hours, he felt the burning heat sap his energy. The sand was sharper and hotter than any desert in the galaxy, and the air, thin and dry, made his breaths harsh and uncomfortable. He stumbled, which had never happened to him before. Another Cathari soldier landed in a dense forest, thinking he could move as he pleased. But the thick trees, twisting vines, and uneven ground slowed him down. He had grown used to smooth surfaces and controlled environments. Here he tripped over roots, scratched his skin, and struggled to find a clear path. In the mountains, a third Cathari tried to scale icy cliffs. His fingers, strong for climbing metal walls, could not grip the jagged ice properly. The cold bit into him, and he realized that even his natural strength had limits. It was frustrating and humiliating. Meanwhile, humans on Earth noticed strange events. A few hikers saw tall, strange-looking beings struggling through the wilderness. One of them, Lena, a survival expert, observed quietly from a distance. She was fascinated rather than scared. She had spent years learning how to survive in deserts, forests, and mountains. She understood the land, the weather, and the hidden patterns of nature. To her, these beings were like children lost in a world too big for them. The Cathari began to panic. Vael, always confident, now felt fear creeping in. "This should not happen," he shouted to his companions through a communicator. "We are the strongest in the galaxy. This world should bend to us." But Earth did not bend. Storms swept across the desert. Freezing winds cut through the mountains, and forests offered no easy paths. The Cathari realized that their technology and strength alone could not overcome the challenges of Earth. They were forced to use their minds in ways they had never imagined. Simple survival became a struggle. Vael tried to push forward, determined to prove himself. He dug small holes to find water, tried to hunt small animals for food, and attempted to build a shelter. Every action was slower and harder than he had expected. He looked at the humans he saw in the distance. They moved easily, carrying little, using natural resources and helping each other without hesitation. They laughed even in difficult moments and found solutions quickly. At night, Vael sat under a starry sky, exhausted and frustrated. His skin felt hot from the day's heat, his stomach growled, and his muscles ached. He watched the humans working together, lighting small fires, sharing water, and building shelters that protected them from cold winds. Slowly, a feeling of awe began to replace his arrogance. Back in the forest, another Cathari tried to cut through thick undergrowth but struggled with vines and fallen branches. A human family collecting herbs nearby noticed the alien. Instead of attacking, they offered simple help, showing him how to use sticks and rocks to clear paths safely. The Cathari was surprised by their calm and resourceful nature. He realized that humans did not panic. They thought, planned, and acted. Every small challenge was met with determination. The days passed and the Cathari began to grow weaker. They relied less on their suits and more on trial and error. But Earth did not forgive mistakes. Harsh sun, sudden rains, slippery rocks, and wild animals tested them constantly. Vial, who had laughed at humans so confidently, now felt respect growing. The creatures he had called weak were teaching him something he had never learned. Survival was not about speed or strength alone. It was about endurance, intelligence, and heart. One evening, Vial climbed a small hill to observe the desert. He saw humans tending fires, sharing food, and helping each other carry supplies. A small child stumbled, and 2 adults immediately supported him. There was no complaining, no shouting, just cooperation and patience. Vial felt a strange warmth in his chest. This was strength he had never seen in the galaxy. He realized that humans had survived countless challenges on their planet, from icy mountains to scorching deserts, without falling apart. They had built communities, solved problems with creativity, and faced danger with courage. It was different from the Cathari way, where strength and skill alone defined power. Humans had something deeper, resilience that could not be measured by speed or intelligence alone. The Cathari delegation communicated back to the council, admitting their struggles. Vial's voice, once filled with arrogance, was now quieter, thoughtful. "We underestimated them," he said. "They are not weak. Earth has taught me a lesson I did not expect. Strength is not only physical. It is the ability to endure, adapt, and work together." Back in the human camp, Lena continued to observe quietly. She sensed that these aliens were learning something important, though they did not fully understand it yet. She wondered how they would react when they truly realized that humans had survived this planet for thousands of years, adapting and thriving under conditions that would challenge almost any other species in the galaxy. As night fell over the desert, the forest, and the mountains, the Cathari huddled in their temporary shelters, exhausted but slowly gaining a new perspective. They had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, but instead they faced a challenge they could not conquer with raw strength. They had encountered humans, not just creatures to laugh at, but beings whose spirit, endurance, and creativity made them far stronger than any alien had imagined. Vial looked up at the stars, thinking of the galaxy beyond Earth. He realized that the beings he had always considered weak might one day be the most formidable species he had ever met. He could not yet fully understand humans, but he knew one thing. Underestimating them had been a mistake, and he would not make it again. And so, the first chapter of this unlikely encounter ended, not with a victory, but with a lesson. The aliens had arrived confident and proud, but they left the first day humbled, aware that Earth was not just another planet. It was a world where survival required something more than strength. It required heart, resilience, and a wisdom that the Cathari were only beginning to understand. The sun rose over the jagged mountains and endless deserts of Earth, casting golden light across the land. The Cathari, once proud and confident, had spent the night in quiet reflection. Their bodies ached from the challenges of Earth, and their minds were busy trying to understand what they had seen. Vial, who had been so certain of human weakness, now felt a deep curiosity and respect growing in his heart. The day began with new challenges. Vial and his team had to find water in a desert that seemed endless. Their technology had failed them before they could rely on it, and the hot wind carried grains of sand that stung their skin. Vial fell to his knees, frustrated and thirsty, and realized that brute strength would not save him. Nearby, a small group of humans moved with purpose, carrying small containers to collect water from a hidden spring. They navigated the desert carefully, using knowledge and observation rather than force. Lena, who had been watching the Cathari closely, decided it was time to act. She approached cautiously, keeping her hands visible to show no threat. The aliens froze at first, unsure whether to attack or flee, but Vial held up a hand, signaling for calm. Lena stepped closer and spoke gently. "You're struggling," she said. "This planet is not easy for anyone, but we can help." Vial hesitated. His pride wanted to reject assistance, but the truth was clear. He nodded slowly. "Show us," he said. "Show us how you survive." Lena led the Cathari to the spring. Along the way, she pointed out edible plants, described which berries were safe, and showed them how to find water by reading the land and the sky. The Cathari were amazed. The humans moved with a quiet confidence, relying on observation and knowledge rather than physical power. Each small action seemed ordinary to Lena, but to the aliens it was extraordinary. As the day went on, Vale began to notice more. In the mountains, a group of humans climbed icy cliffs to gather firewood. They used ropes and simple tools, working together to distribute weight and support each other. When one of them slipped, others caught him without complaint. The Cathari, who had tried climbing the same cliffs alone, marveled at the teamwork and coordination. Strength alone had failed them, but humans had succeeded through cooperation and careful planning. In the forests, other Cathari struggled to navigate the dense trees. Lena guided them again, showing how to move silently, avoid obstacles, and listen to the sounds of nature. She taught them to recognize patterns in animal behavior, to predict weather changes, and to find shelter before nightfall. The Cathari absorbed these lessons, realizing that humans had survived on this planet for thousands of years, using skills that were natural, yet powerful. By afternoon, Vile was exhausted, but also inspired. He tried a small experiment, following Lena's instructions to build a temporary shelter from branches and leaves. At first, his attempts were clumsy, but he persisted. Slowly, the structure took shape. It was not perfect, but it kept him warm and safe from the sun and wind. He looked at Lena, impressed by her patience and skill. "They make it look easy," he admitted quietly to his companions. "Everything we tried before failed, but they survive every day without technology." "They are remarkable," Lena smiled. "It's not just about strength," she said. "It's about understanding the world, working with it, and never giving up. Humans have learned to adapt to every challenge Earth throws at us." Night came, and the stars above reflected in the still waters of the spring. The Cathari gathered around small fires, watching humans prepare food from simple plants and small animals. They shared stories, laughed, and comforted one another. Vile realized that human strength was not only in survival skills but in their spirit. They cared for each other, stayed calm under pressure, and never lost hope. Vile's pride began to soften. He understood that humans had a form of power the Cathari had never truly measured: resilience, creativity, and empathy. The aliens were fast, strong, and smart, but humans endured where others failed. They used their minds and hearts to overcome obstacles, not just their bodies. The next day brought another test. A sudden storm rolled across the desert, lightning striking the dry ground and wind sweeping the sand into blinding clouds. The Cathari tried to fight it with technology, but it was useless. They struggled to stay upright, their vision obscured and their bodies battered by the wind. Lena and a small group of humans appeared, calmly guiding each other to shelter. They moved with ease, anticipating the storm's direction and helping weaker members along the way. Vale followed them, feeling helpless but determined to learn. He noticed how humans distributed tasks, communicated silently with gestures, and remained composed despite danger. For the first time, he felt admiration rather than mockery. He realized that humans were not fragile. They were adaptable, clever, and strong in ways that were invisible to outsiders. By evening, the storm had passed, leaving a calm and quiet world behind. The Cathari, wet and tired, sat beside the humans, listening as they shared stories of past challenges and victories. One human spoke of surviving freezing winters, another of enduring scorching heat, and another of building a home with nothing but hands and simple tools. Vile understood that humans' lives were filled with tests that the Cathari had never faced. Every day they proved themselves resilient. In the following days, the aliens continued to learn. They discovered how humans used small fires to cook food and purify water. They watched humans navigate rivers, scale cliffs, and cross deserts with patience and strategy. Every obstacle that had defeated the Cathari was handled naturally by humans. It was not luck, it was knowledge, practice, and teamwork. Vile began to speak to the Cathari Council through the communicator, reporting what he saw. His voice carried respect rather than arrogance. "They are not weak," he said. "They survive challenges that would destroy us. They are clever, resourceful, and strong in ways we cannot measure. Earth is not a place for the weak, and humans have thrived here for thousands of years." The Cathari Council listened, some surprised, others thoughtful. Vile's message was clear. Strength was not only physical or technological. Humans had endurance, intelligence, and determination that could not be defeated by natural forces. One evening, Vial walked with Lena through a small forest. He pointed to a stream and asked, "How do you survive in such harsh places?" Lena smiled. "We watch, we learn, we help each other. Strength is important, but courage, patience, and cooperation are stronger. Alone, any species might fail. Together, humans endure anything." Vial nodded slowly. He had learned a lesson he would never forget. The Cathari had believed humans were weak, but after witnessing their resilience, they had a new understanding. Humans were not just survivors, they were extraordinary. As the aliens prepared to leave Earth, Vial looked back at the land. He saw humans tending their farms, climbing mountains, and exploring forests. They laughed, argued, and worked together, just as they had always done. Vial realized that the galaxy had underestimated a species that had survived every test Earth could offer. When the Cathari departed, they carried more than their pride. They carried knowledge and respect. Vial reported to the Council that humans were a species to admire and study, a race whose spirit and determination made them formidable. The humans, unaware of the full scope of the aliens' visit, continued their lives as they always had, thriving under the sun and stars. Earth had quietly shown the galaxy that human strength was not in speed, size, or technology. It was in heart, resilience, and intelligence. Vale looked at his reflection in the ship's metal hull and smiled softly. He had come expecting weakness, but he had found something stronger than anything he had known. Humans were not weak, they were extraordinary, and the galaxy would soon learn it too. The Cathari learned a truth they could not ignore. Strength was more than physical power. More than intelligence, it was the ability to endure, adapt, and rise again in the face of every challenge. Humans had done that for millennia. Earth had tested them, and they had thrived. And so, the story ended not with a battle or a defeat, but with understanding and respect. Vial and his team had come to prove humans weak, but they left changed, carrying a lesson that would echo across the stars. Humans were not just a species. They were a force, resilient and unyielding, ready to endure anything the universe might throw at them.